Okay, so White Mountain is where we're starting. And we got some special rules for this scenario, and I think most of the scenarios in this this particular game come with significant special rules. Let's take a look at some of the terrain first. The Litovitz stream is counted as a marshy stream. I've got to find it. I guess it's this thing. Okay, that's easy enough. Cliff hex sides along 2326 and 2426 are impassable. I bet you that's up here. That's the only thing I can see that looks like a cliff. It's not actually specified here that I can see with my little crappy eyes. But let's see, 23. Yeah, it's got to be this little line there. Okay. Chateau Stern, which is going to count as a chateau. It's the area within the walls on the southeast corner of the map. This looks like the walls. And then this should be the chateau itself, which is going to be treated as a chateau hex. The light brown area is a courtyard, and it's treated as clear terrain. Great. Okay. Nothing too exciting there. The walls. The walls are impassable to cavalry, but can be scaled by infantry in normal or open order. They'll take formation broken after they cross it, I assume, even if they're in open order. That makes sense. Units cannot attack across the wall in any way. And that'll be in the terrain effects addendum. There's entrenchments, such as those around 2320. I think that'll be these dark. These white stars, the victory point hexes, it's kind of a clever move to make them big enough that you can see them if there's units on top of them. On the other hand, it kind of disturbs the view of the field a little bit to have these, especially this huge one here. But let's see. What did we say here? Yeah, now I lost my place. 2320. It's got to be these little things here. Yeah. So those are normal entrenchment hex sides from musket and pike. The abatis hex sides, such as 22, 2017. These little will be on the addendum for this scenario. And those don't look too potent. A little bit of effect on close combat, and they break up infantry a little bit, extra movement point even for lights, but the cav can just jump them. That isn't a very impressive abatis if the cav can jump them. Star Palace Garrison, Saxe, Weimar, and Jung Anhalt heavy infantry inside the Chateau Stern are marked with a white border around their unit names, and this is a policy. They've made these little some changes to the unit counters. In this case, any special rules units will be marked with that white border. Now these guys, when they're inside the complex, they're in command and they can ignore charge orders requirements that make them move. I assume they're part of this right wing command, so they can stay within the compound and try to defend it even if they're under charge orders. But if they leave the complex, they're under normal rules for the game. Uncooperative Transylvanians, the whole Transylvanian wing, and that's this rear wing back here. And that's all cav, of course. They start inactive. The wing commander's finished. Well, all the wing commanders are that way. But he stays that way until the wing is committed. While uncommitted, the wing acts as if it's out of command when performing reactions. The Bohemian player can attempt to commit the wing in each marker removal at the end of turn admin type stuff. On a 7 through 9, it's successful, and then he'll work normally. On a 4 through 6, nothing happens. If it's a 3 or less, the Transylvanians leave the map. But they don't count for victory points. So, historically, these guys waited back here and then saw the battle was done and left. I feel like there should be some kind of modifier to the whole thing. That committing them too early should give you a penalty, and committing them when the battle is already being lost should be a penalty. As it stands, I'm going to be rolling right away, and they might just leave right away. It's not too terrible, but I think I would have chosen differently. Mark the current status by placing the Transylvanian status marker. Yeah, we got a little marker for that. Well, we'll keep track of them with. Okay. The Catholic command has 2 army commanders. Bukoy is activated only when the first or second echelon wings are activated. So your army commander gets activated whenever you do a wing activation. I didn't explain that in the rules. He doesn't have his own specific activation. He can only affect those wings. If he has a replacement, that's true too. Maximilian only when the Catholic League wing. Well, let me make sure. I think the Catholic League is this blue stuff over here. Yeah. And these are the echelons of the I don't know, the imperial echelons. The Protestant command, the Protestants are going to have a penalty of 1 to all preemption, continuation, and orders change. In addition, all their leaders start off finished, so that they can't activate on the first turn. Their units can still react. At the end of the game, the Catholic player is going to get victory points for the following objectives. Light infantry and morale broken units do not count for satisfying the first 2 bullets. 20 for being anything inside Chateau Stern. So the entire compound is worth 20 if they get in there at the end of the game. By the end of the game. They got to still stay there. 20 for each of the hexes with a little star on them. And then 10 if the Transylvanian wing left the field, either by an unsuccessful commitment check. Well, that's why you may not want to try committing them until you need them. Because you don't want to make rolls for them and give 10 quick victory points. Or if the entire wing is eliminated in pursuit or in broken morale. So that's a good reason to hold off there. And this will start at 12 and go through to 7, or through 2. Actually, say through 140. Through the end of 140. Historically, they surrendered at 2. I'm going to go the 7th turn. Yeah, that'll make sense. Right? No. Should be 6 turns by the way it's worded, but that's okay. We'll do 7 whole turns. So that's all we got for special rules here. Most of the victory points will be through casualties. Obviously, the Imperials are on the offensive. I've got to decide where to put my artillery and my army commanders. I haven't decided them yet. And these commanded musketeers that go with them. Alright. So a couple more important little scenario things. All the Protestants are in receive charge. The Catholics make ready for the left wing back here and charge for the Imperials. The artillery I decided to leave unlimbered because I figure I'm going to get 1 shot in and then I'm going to be screening it. Limbered, it can only move 2 hexes. I want to get this attack going as fast as possible while they're kind of unprepared and disorganized. Also, I looked up my command rules to make sure they were what I remembered. And basically, your wing, you have to be within 2 hexes of your wing commander, 3 if you're a cav unit, but you can trace to other units that are in command. So the whole formations are in command as long as they're kind of close to each other. I think this guy is out of command up here, this musketeer, for whatever that matters. No matter what I do, I could conceivably shove him up. I could move the leader up. I don't think they're required to be in any specific hex. And that's really not a big deal. And likewise, this guy over here, I probably want to be in command of. So I'll put myself so I'm close to him. Well, he was in command down there. So the only one that's out of command is this, and if I put my leader up front, he'd be in command. But that's kind of risky. It is possible to get your leaders whacked in this game. So we'll go with this. And, well, I've wasted a lot of time chatting about this scenario, but let's get it started and get those Imperials moving. Basically, because of the initiative, even if these weren't all finished, they would be going first. Probably open up with some fire with the artillery. I've been finding some difficulty getting started, and now that I do, I find myself paging through the rules a lot, because quite simply, I have forgotten this largely, as you can tell from the intro. Anyway, the Catholic artillery, shit. I shouldn't have fired this one. Which is in different wings. This one shouldn't have fired, I guess. Is all opened up firing. I did them all. I cheated. Hey, that's life. They all opened up fire on this unit. They got a grand result of a morale shake, and when you do a formation hit on artillery, it just shakes the morale. It just makes them take a morale check. The idea there is to disrupt the fire so that I can advance forward. And I don't know which. See, I'm used to having these things on the board. I find it difficult to see here. So actually, these artillery could not have fired yet. And that could affect things, but I can't really hit this one, and that's where I'm going to be advancing. So, I think it's okay to just leave it by. The thing is that the different wings have to follow their orders, and these guys are in charge orders, and we'll move them forward. Had kind of an annoying situation where I fired at this cav because it could strike me in melee with strike the artillery in melee, but it meant I passed an opportunity to fire at this large infantry formation, and now the cav is going to hit me. There's nothing that can react. I don't have any cav on this side. These guys are considered inactive. I think these guys may be. I have to look at the special rules to make sure. For the first turn only. Yeah, it's really an ugly situation for the Protestants in this battle. No question. They're caught with their pants down. And an interesting situation arose here. Light infantry is being hit by the cav. Now, if that light infantry were alone in the hex, it would be destroyed. But it's with artillery. Now, artillery is ignored, but it doesn't get ignored in the sense of, it's very specific in the rules that the light infantry is not alone in the hex for that. Unfortunately, the combat matrix of arquebusiers hitting light infantry is NA. Not applicable, not allowed, what? I don't know how to react to this. I'm going to try to look for the rules a little bit more. A light infantry unit stacked with an artillery unit that is ignored is not considered to be alone in the hex. It's certainly not invulnerable, but I don't know how to react to this. I don't know what the modifier should be. The cav should have a pretty good chance of running this stuff down. I'm going to have to guess it's a 0. I'll look later, see if I find anything in the rules. But we're going to have a -1 due to the terrain. I'm going to fire my pistols because my odds aren't very good here. And let's see what we got here. We got a morale differential. Well, I'm an 8, that's a 4. That gives me +4. You know what? I'm not going to fire my pistols. I'm a +4 to begin with on the morale differential. Strength ratio. I have 3 strength points. A musket is only going to have 1. So that's 3 to 1. That's another +1. That gives me +5. I'm not going to give it anything here. I'm not going to fire the shifts. It's a flank hex, so that puts it up to 6. But There's two factors in here. One is I've got a -1 for the terrain, which would bring it down to 5. But the other is I can only get a +4, which is why I'm not firing the thing. There would have been a momentum bonus, but these are arquebusers in this era. They don't get it. So I roll a 6, a +4 is 10. Defender eliminated. I must advance and check for cavalry pursuit. That means this is going to be in the dead pile. This gun is captured. We ride in, and on the pursuit table we're under a charge. The momentum doesn't count. And no leader was used, so I think I've got a +1. 2, I'm able to break off. I think that means I stay in the same hex. That's pretty sweet. So I took out that gun pretty easily. Now I can roll for a momentum. This command has moved, so I'll do that, or continuation. And we don't get it. So he's finished. Would have been nice to hit more of the flank there and roll it up a little bit. Oh well. So it is legitimate at the beginning of the scenario, and again, as I'm learning the rules again, I have to forget that I have to remember these things. But for units to start in open order, and I'm going to start this entire command in open order. Yeah, it's a little bit of cheating, but the reason is, and it may be true with this one too, I've got to get over these steep slopes. I take formation hits for going up them, which means I'm going to have to reform. Now, I'm going to have to reform my formation anyhow from open order. But these guys definitely have no problem with it because they're screened. This group up here, I've got these musketeers in front that can kind of screen the forces. I'm gonna put everything behind there in open order too. Anyway, I'll come back with that. But this formation's got to move at this point with a charge order. Eventually, once they crest the where they can start engaging, I'll try to take a reform action, get them out of open order, because you can't really fight in open order. And that puts us pretty much at the end of the first turn. I've pushed forward. Nobody got any momentums or continuation effects there. And that means the Protestants really didn't get chewed up in that first turn too badly. They got some fire in with their artillery at some heavy units. They came close. Although they were in grazing range, because fire's opportunity fire. So for example, this guy chose to shoot at this. Now if he had waited, he could have shot at this, which is also an open order, but I don't have enough markers for it. He could have shot at this and been able to hit 2 units at once, but then maybe the Catholics wouldn't advance that second row as much. There's kind of this, you know, it seems a little gamey, but you can say, well, these guys would advance forward, and once they start taking fire, these guys come up when the cannons have finished firing, basically, and push further onward. It may seem a little strange. It's just one of the little twitchy aspects in the game. All right, I'm going to load this up, and then I'll perform a little bit of cleanup. And nobody changed their orders or anything. These guys kind of want to remain in make ready so they can move forward rapidly. They have a problem in that this couldn't move. This couldn't move as far as it did. That's not a wing commander back there. I thought I had my wing commander here. He could have commanded everything. But I want him towards the front so that he can reform the units more rapidly. You can't really reform easily in make-ready formation unless you have a leader present. So that means, it's a little more difficult. This unit actually took a formation hit, even though it's open order, which is almost a formation hit in and of itself. So he's going to be a little harder to reform. It's kind of this slow approach up the mountain. And we'll see whether the Catholics can do what they're supposed to do. That's the end of the first turn then.